Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to take these enduring puzzles, stack up all the source material we can find, the science, the history, even the speculation, and, well, give you the ultimate shortcut to really getting it.
Yeah, getting properly informed.
Exactly. And when you talk about structures that just seem to defy, any easy explanation, structures that really push the limits of ancient engineering, well, you inevitably end up looking at ancient Egypt.
Oh, absolutely. The Great Stone Paradoxes. We're diving into a civilization that, over 4,000 years ago?
Yeah.
They put up the largest structures the world would see for, millennia. And these pyramids, they still pose these riddles that just seem to resist, every kind of modern analysis, technical or historical.
Right. So today's deep dive is really an investigation into this profound archaeological mystery. We're looking at the findings, the structures themselves, and these artifacts that, well, to some people, they just seem impossible. Impossible for the time.
Totally out of place, yeah.
We've gathered source material that really digs into that conflict, doesn't it, between sort of mainstream archaeology.
Yeah, the established view.
And then these highly speculative, sometimes you have to admit, pretty compelling theories that pop up exactly when the standard science kind of hits a brick wall. So we'll be looking at the architectural puzzles of Giza, obviously, but also the hard science trying to crack them, especially thinking about these pre-astronautics ideas.
And I think the central question for you, listening in, the learner, it's maybe less technical and more philosophical.
How so?
Well, when we look at the sheer, just overwhelming scale of the pyramids, or maybe some artifact we can't immediately explain, and the first thought is, oh, aliens must have done that.
Right, that jump.
What does that reaction actually say about us? Are we maybe subconsciously showing this profound lack of faith, this distrust in the sheer inventiveness, and frankly, the capability of our own ancestors?
That's a really interesting point, that maybe it's our limitation, not theirs.
Exactly. We need to unpack the evidence that seems impossible, sure, but then really bring the rigorous science to bear. Force ourselves, maybe, to redefine what we think early human ingenuity was actually capable of.
Okay, so let's start there. This core idea, pre-astronautics, it's been around in popular culture for ages, hasn't it?
Decades, yeah.
When we talk about this, what's the actual sort of core belief we're discussing?
Okay, so we're talking about the belief system, the idea that posits extraterrestrial civilizations, highly advanced ones, visited Earth way back. Antiquity, the distant past, and that these visits fundamentally influenced human development, maybe culturally, technologically, perhaps even biologically.
So the idea is the knowledge needed for something like the pyramids, or maybe some advanced math concepts found there, it couldn't possibly have come from humans at that stage.
That's the crux of it, yeah. That it had to be imported, so to speak, that it wasn't native knowledge.
And the people who push this view, the speculators, the ancient alien theorists, what specific things do they point to? Because it's got to be more than just, wow, those are big rocks. Right?
No, definitely. It's often these really detailed anomalies.
Yeah.
Things that they don't have an easy, clear-cut explanation within the standard archaeological story.
Like what, for example?
Well, researchers often point to specific rock carvings, maybe artifacts, that seem to show figures in weird outfits.
Weird how?
Like clothing that looks strangely like modern pressure suits, or things interpreted as helmets, maybe breathing gear.
Yeah.
Sometimes even pictures of strange craft alongside them.
And it's not just small carvings, is it?
Yeah.
There's the really large-scale stuff, too, the things you need a different perspective for.
Exactly. That's another classic piece of evidence they cite. These massive ground images, geoglyphs sometimes, of animals like whales or monkeys, huge figures.
The Nazca Lions type of thing?
Similar idea, yeah. They're so colossal that you can only really recognize the whole shape if you're looking down from the air.
Which immediately begs the question.
Yeah, right. If people who made them were stuck on the ground, why draw something that only makes sense from high above? It raises profound questions. And these aren't just, one-offs. You find these patterns, these anomalies across different cultures all over the globe, suggesting maybe some common non-human inspiration.
That observational point is powerful, you have to admit. If you can only appreciate it from altitude, it implies, well, either a God's eye view or a technological one. So what's the standard mainstream archaeological pushback on that specific type of evidence?
Well, the mainstream academic world acknowledges the evidence, the observation is correct, but they firmly categorize pre-astronautics as, pseudoscience.
Okay.
It's just not recognized by established disciplines because the evidence lacks that verifiable physical proof. We haven't found the crashed spaceship or the alien tool made of unobtainium.
Right. No smoking gun artifact that survives dating.
Exactly. But our sources are pretty fair in noting the counterpoint, which is mathematical. The probability of extraterrestrial life existing somewhere out there.
Drake equation stuff.
Kind of, yeah. That probability is calculated to be actually relatively high.
So the academic stance isn't aliens are impossible. It's more like the theory they landed in ancient Egypt and handed out pyramid blueprints is highly speculative based on what we can actually prove.
Precisely. And that brings us right back to that philosophical tension we talked about.
Yeah.
When we hit something we can't explain, and the pyramids are the ultimate example, right? Why is the first leap so often to aliens rather than trusting in the deep inventive power of early humans?
It's like a failure of imagination about our own species.
It really is. We have tons of evidence our ancestors were capable of philosophy, complex math, huge social organization. We really have to challenge this tendency to just assume they were somehow less capable engineers than us, just because we haven't found their, IKEA instruction manual yet.
That totally reframes it. The mystery might not be about what they had, but about how much we underestimate what our own ancestors could pull off thousands of years ago.
Let's try and quantify that underestimation.
Okay, let's shift from the theory to the sheer physical challenge. Because nothing forces this question of human capability like the pyramids of Giza.
Absolutely nothing. I mean, we're talking about structures that were the peak of Old Kingdom Egypt, built over 4,000 years ago. The scale, it's almost beyond modern comprehension.
And the really staggering part, the bit that makes the logistics just seem impossible, is the time factor, isn't it? The Great Pyramid, Cheops Pyramid.
Yeah.
The estimate is it was finished in just 20 years.
20.
That 20-year window?
Yeah.
That's the absolute linchpin of the whole mystery. Because think about the scale. The Great Pyramid has, roughly 2.3 million stone blocks?
Something like that, yeah.
And the average weight is estimated at maybe 2.5 tons. So much heavier, of course.
Right.
So to finish in 20 years, assuming they work year-round, which is debated, the builders would have had to quarry, transport, and perfectly place a block roughly every 2 to 3 minutes.
Every 3 minutes.
24 hours a day, 365 days a year for 20 years straight. A multi-ton block, perfectly positioned every 3 minutes for 2 decades. That level of organization, logistical skill, technical efficiency, it's just unparalleled in the ancient world. Maybe even today, honestly, given the materials.
And that speed problem. It gets even sharper when you compare Cheops to other huge ancient projects. Think about, say, the Temple of Karnak.
Also magnificent, huge complex.
Immense, yeah. Another incredible, enduring structure from the time of the pharaohs. But Karnak, even though it's vast and complex, it took something like 1,000 years to build and expand.
Wait, hang on. 1,000 years for a sprawling temple complex versus just 20 years for the biggest, most precisely engineered, geometrically perfect stone structure on Earth at the time.
See, the difference is astronomical.
That suggests something. Almost like a singular, maybe even ruthless focus on one massive goal.
It really does. And our source material points out, for the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't just construction. It was deeply, deeply tied into their whole belief system, their religion, the divinity of the pharaoh.
So beliefs literally moved mountains.
You could say that, yeah. It required total state organization, this intense faith. When you think about that scale, it suggests a level of societal dedication, logistical mastery. We almost can't grasp it today. Picture an entire society laser-focused on one goal for 2 decades, non-stop.
That in itself, that social engineering, is almost as baffling as the stone moving.
It's a huge part of the puzzle, absolutely. # unpacking the divine dimensions theory.
Okay, so the physical logistics are one massive mystery, but then there's this other layer, this idea that the pyramids aren't just tombs, they're containers of secret knowledge.
Ah, yes, the divine dimensions theory.
This idea that the actual physical measurements of Cheops conceal, cosmic constants, divine messages.
Yeah.
It's been around a long time, hasn't it, since the 1800s?
Absolutely. It really peaked with certain 19th century pyramidologists, often English researchers, who are looking for, frankly, proof of biblical prophecy or divine knowledge locked in the stone. And to understand their claims, you have to start with the measurement unit they were using, or rather, misusing. The smallest ancient Egyptian unit was the finger.
The jiba.
Exactly. And what was the sort of aha connection these researchers made?
They latched onto the fact that this Egyptian finger unit was roughly sort of analogous to the modern inch, right? The one used in Britain and America.
Precisely. A very convenient coincidence for them because it allowed them to convert the ancient dimensions into modern figures, and suddenly, voila, profound mathematical relationships just appeared.
And what were some of these spectacular calculations they claimed to find hidden in Cheops dimension?
Oh, they were quite fantastic. One key researcher asserted that the length of one side of the pyramid, measured in these finger inches, equaled 100 times the exact number of days in a solar year.
Wow, okay.
And furthermore, he calculated that 500 million of these finger widths added up to the precise length of the Earth's polar axis.
That's incredibly specific knowledge for the time.
And the biggest one, the most famous claim. The pyramid's original height, multiplied by 10 to the power of 9.
1 billion times the height.
Yeah, yielded the exact distance from the Earth to the sun.
Okay, if that were true, that would be basically undeniable proof, wouldn't it? That the ancient Egyptians somehow had access to astronomical constants we only verified with, like 19th century telescopes and math.
It implies alien help or divine revelation, absolutely.
It would be the ultimate smoking gun. Except
for the critical, simple flaw. These specific, amazing cosmological results depend entirely on using the modern inch, which is standardized at 2.54 centimeters, as the base unit for all those calculations.
and the actual ancient unit, the real Egyptian finger.
The actual verified ancient Egyptian finger, the jiba, was significantly smaller. It's closer to 1.87 centimeters.
Ah, so nearly a centimeter difference per unit.
Which adds up massively over the scale of the pyramid. The 19th century researcher was essentially forcing the data. He imposed a modern, foreign measurement system onto the ancient structure to get the answers he wanted, the ones that fit his preconceived cosmic theory.
So the whole amazing premise, the divine blueprint, encoded in stone, it just hinges on using the wrong ruler.
Pretty much. He picked the wrong measuring stick, likely because it gave him the answers he was looking for, and boom, the profound secret knowledge completely evaporates.
It's a really powerful example of confirmation bias, isn't it? Seeing what you expect to see.
Absolutely. And how that desire for a spectacular, non-human explanation can make people overlook the most basic, verifiable historical facts, like, just simple weights and measures, hashtag the unresolved problem of construction methods.
Okay, so we've debunked the cosmic math, or at least that specific version of it. But the physical problem isn't going away. How did they move 2.3 million multi-ton stones? Still the core question. Let's look at the historical accounts we actually have. Our main source is the Greek historian Herodotus, right? But he was writing, 2,000 years after the Great Pyramid was built?
Yeah, a huge gap. Makes his account more like historical hearsay or legend than a contemporary eyewitness report. Still valuable, but you have to take it with a grain of salt.
What did Herodotus actually say about the workforce?
Well, he frames the enormous scale. He reported 10 times 10,000 people, so 100,000 workers involved simultaneously.
100,000 people.
Modern archaeology tends to think the permanent skilled workforce was smaller, maybe more like 20,000 or 30,000, possibly boosted by seasonal agricultural labor during the Nile's flood season when farming wasn't possible.
Still a huge number.
Oh, absolutely. But the scale of organization he describes is key. He noted, for instance, that just building the massive stone causeway, the road leading to the construction site, that alone took 10 years.
10 years just for the access road.
A decade-long, massive infrastructure project just to get the materials to the main event. It speaks volumes about the planning involved.
And Herodotus did mention some kind of lifting mechanisms being used, at least on other step pyramids. That often brings up the shadoof.
Yeah, the shadoof gets mentioned.
But can we seriously consider that as the main tool for lifting multi-ton blocks hundreds of feet?
Not really, no. The shadoof is an ancient device. It's ingenious. Basically a simple counterweighted lever, like a seesaw with a bucket.
Right. Used for irrigation mostly.
Primarily for drawing water from the Nile very efficiently. It can lift small weights, maybe some smaller stones used inside, or for less monumental projects. But using it to hoist millions of 2.5-ton blocks, way up high.
It doesn't seem feasible.
The physics just don't work, and the speed required. Remember that 3-minute deadline per block? A shadoof just couldn't keep up or handle the weight. It's logistically impossible for the main structure.
Okay, so if not simple levers, we're forced back to the most common theory, the one everyone pictures. The ramp.
The ramp dilemma, yeah.
Sounds simple enough. Just drag the stones up. But the geometry immediately creates huge problems, doesn't it?
Massive problems. The straight external ramp, the kind you see in movies, is the easiest to imagine. But to drag those huge stones without needing like hundreds of men pulling each one, you need a fairly gentle slope.
Makes sense.
So let's assume a reasonable incline, say 10 degrees. To reach the pyramid's final height of about 146 meters, that ramp would need to be over a kilometer long.
Over a kilometer.
Roughly 1,460 meters, yeah. A mile-long ramp, basically.
And the big structural logistical headache with building a ramp that long and that high is...
The sheer volume of it, it's catastrophic. Calculations show that a ramp like that would actually require more material, earth, rubble, stone supports than the entire pyramid itself contained.
More material than the pyramid.
Easily. The pyramid's volume is about 2.5 million cubic meters. A straight ramp needed to build it could easily exceed 6 million cubic meters. You're essentially building a man-made hill 2.5 times bigger just to build the pyramid next to it.
Which raises the obvious questions.
Where did all that ramp material come from? How did they move and compact it? And crucially, where did it all go afterwards? It seems to have just vanished without a trace. The cleanup job would be almost as big as the construction.
Okay, so the straight ramp seems to fail the practicality test, the material volume test. That leads researchers to the other main ramp idea, the spiraling ramp.
Right, the one that sort of winds around the pyramid as it goes up.
This seems cleverer, right? It solves the material problem because the pyramid itself supports the ramp structure.
It solves the volume problem, yes. But it creates a whole new one. The measurement catastrophe.
How so?
Well, the pyramids are incredibly precisely aligned to the cardinal points north, south, east, west, with errors often measured in just tiny fractions of a degree.
Amazing precision.
To get that kind of accuracy and to maintain the perfect geometric shape, the structural integrity as it rises, you need constant clear lines of sight.
Why are sight lines so critical?
Because the builders needed to constantly survey. They had to check the corners, the edges, probably against the horizon, maybe using stars at night, to make absolutely sure the structure was going up perfectly straight and perfectly square.
Okay.
A ramp wrapping around the outside of the building would completely block the surveyor's view of those crucial corners and angles. It would make those precise measurements and alignments physically impossible to maintain as the pyramid got taller. You'd be building blind, essentially.
So both main ramp theories, straight or spiral, hit these major logistical or geometric dead ends that, so far, nobody's definitively solved or found clear archaeological proof for.
That's the situation, yeah. And because the ancient Egyptians conveniently forgot to leave us their construction blueprints, the door stays wide open for more, let's say, unorthodox speculation, sometimes bordering on the outright bizarre.
Like what? Any examples?
Oh, sure. There's been speculation about building it from the top down somehow, filling it with sand and then removing the sand.
Top down? How would that even work?
Yeah, it's hard to visualize. But these ideas raise huge unanswered questions about, like, the basic physics, the statics of the stones already placed, how you'd stabilize it during construction, and again, the mysterious disappearance of literally billions of tons of sand that you'd need. Where did it all go? The physical constraints are just enormous.
Okay, forget the really wild stuff. Let's think about tools again. If they didn't use ramps as we imagine them, could they have used some kind of more advanced lifting tech? Like block and tackle systems, pulleys.
Pulleys. The mechanics are really appealing, aren't they?
Yeah, the weight multiplication seems like a solution.
Absolutely. With a system of multiple pulleys and strong ropes, you could theoretically get the force needed to lift a 2.5-ton block with the effort of maybe, say, 50 workers pulling together.
Which is way more efficient than just dragging.
Far less material needed than a ramp, mechanically elegant. It feels like the most logical, human-scale engineering solution.
So why is this theory, which seems to solve the lifting puzzle so neatly, generally rejected by Egyptologists?
Simple reason: the archaeological timeline. While the physics works on paper, we have absolutely zero physical or even pictorial evidence that complex compound pulley systems existed in Egypt during the Old Kingdom when Cheops was built.
No carvings, no remnants.
Nothing. The oldest known examples of sophisticated block and tackle systems, they date from over 1,000 years after the Great Pyramids were completed.
1,000 years later, wow.
Yeah. So until someone digs up a functional pulley wheel clearly dated to the time of Cheops, found near Giza, that elegant engineering solution remains just a theory, an unsolved case. And that gap, that missing technology, continues to fuel the idea that maybe they had help, maybe something external.
It's really clear, isn't it? Our understanding of human ingenuity, even acknowledging how brilliant ancient peoples were, hasn't yet given us that single slam dunk verifiable answer to the construction puzzle.
Well, yeah, no.
So let's pivot. Let's see what happens when we apply some seriously 21st century tech to this 4,500-year-old problem, since we can't just, cut the pyramid open.
Which would be archaeological vandalism, yeah.
Right. Modern science is trying to look through it instead.
Exactly. And that's where this fascinating muon detection project comes in.
Muons. Okay, remind us what those are. Subatomic particles.
Yeah, think of them as heavy electrons, basically. They're created naturally when cosmic rays, high-energy particles from space, hit the Earth's upper atmosphere.
So they're raining down on us all the time.
Constantly, and they're very penetrating. Think of them like natural, high-energy X-rays that can pass through hundreds of meters of rock. They go right through dense structures like the Great Pyramid.
So how does tracking these tiny space particles let us map the inside?
It's clever. Detectors are placed inside or underneath the pyramid. Now, when a muon passes through dense material like the pyramid's limestone or granite blocks, its path gets slightly deflected, or it might get absorbed altogether.
Okay.
But if it encounters empty space, a hidden chamber, a corridor, a void, it just passes straight through unimpeded.
Ah, I see. So you look for the shadows where muons don't get deflected.
Essentially, yes. By carefully measuring the angles, the distribution, the shadows and the muon flux arriving at the detectors, highly specialized teams, Japanese physicists were key here, could calculate where stone was missing inside the structure, where the density was different.
And what did tracking these cosmic rays reveal inside literally the most studied building on the planet?
It revealed something astonishing. By analyzing terabytes of data, the researchers calculated the undeniable presence of a previously unknown anomaly, a huge one.
Define huge.
A massive void, or cavity, at least 30 meters long, sitting directly above the Grand Gallery, that famous ascending corridor.
30 meters. A completely new, large, unknown space inside the Great Pyramid.
Yep. A discovery that just fundamentally rewrites the internal map we thought we had of the structure.
What is it? Any idea? Is it another burial chamber? A structural thing to relieve weight?
That's the thing. The nature of this void is still completely unclear. It's enormous. It seems complex in shape based on the data. It could be anything. Maybe an internal construction ramp they just sealed off.
Plausible.
Maybe a massive hidden chamber we never knew about. Or maybe it serves some structural or even symbolic purpose that's totally opaque to modern archaeology.
So the discovery of this huge hidden space just adds another layer of mystery, doesn't it? It almost perfectly fuels that persistent question running through this whole deep dive. What else don't we know?
Exactly. You solve one mystery, how to look inside non-destructively, and you immediately create a brand new, baffling one. What is that void?
And it's fascinating. While modern science is finding these hidden voids inside pyramids on Earth, other branches of science are finding things in space that, well, give ammunition to the alien theorists.
Indeed. A totally different kind of evidence that fuels the speculation. Pyramid shapes on other worlds.
You mean like that mountain on Ceres?
Precisely. The discovery of that giant, remarkably pyramid-shaped mountain Ahuna Mons on the dwarf planet Ceres.
Which orbits out in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter.
Right. That discovery is often cited by the, let's call them the aliens fraction, as potential proof that this specific architectural form, the pyramid, might not be unique to Earth.
And this Ceres mountain is genuinely huge, isn't it? Like 10 kilometers across at the base.
Immense, yeah. And its sharp geometric appearance is striking. Though most planetary scientists think it's a cryovolcano, an ice volcano formed by natural geological processes, maybe fault lines intersecting.
But the visual is powerful.
Very powerful. For those already looking for connections, seeing massive, geometrically distinct pyramid-like structures on other celestial bodies, it just reinforces that question. Are the tombs of the pharaohs maybe not entirely an earthbound idea? Or is the pyramid simply the most stable, easiest way to build a really big structure no matter what planet you're on?
Okay, let's bring this back down to Earth for a minute and get really specific with one artifact. An object that the pre-astronautic folks have often pointed to as potential hard evidence of alien tech. The Sabu Disc.
Ah, the Sabu Disc, yes.
This thing, it really looks like something out of a sci-fi movie, doesn't it? Like a component from a spaceship.
It absolutely does. It's this circular, incredibly thin object made of slate, or technically metasilt stone. It has these 3 delicate lobes or blades that curve inwards towards the center. Very futuristic looking.
And where was it found?
It was discovered near Egypt's very first pyramid, the Step Pyramid of Djoser in Saqqara, found in the tomb of a high official, a prince or governor named Sabu.
And the age here is really crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely. The tomb itself dates to around 3000 BCE, First Dynasty, which means this object is significantly older than the Great Pyramid of Giza, maybe by 500 years or so.
Wow. And its original purpose?
Completely unknown, no inscriptions on it, nothing found with it that gives a clear clue. Just this strange, delicate, high-tech looking object.
So given that look, circular thin with these sort of veins or blades, the alien hypothesis was almost immediate, right?
Oh, yeah.
This must have been what, a drive wheel?
Right.
A propulsion unit component? Maybe just a model of a part from a much more advanced spacecraft?
That was exactly the line of thinking. So modern engineers decided, okay, let's take this seriously. They wanted to use 21st century science to figure out if it could have actually functioned as some kind of mechanical or aerodynamic device.
How do they approach that?
Well, aerospace engineers, bionics specialists, they got the precise data, measurements, scans from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, where the original disc is kept, and then they used modern 3D printing to create highly accurate replicas.
In different materials? Different sizes?
Exactly, to allow for proper functional testing.
Okay, let's break down the tests. What about the bionics department first?
Yeah.
Looking for parallels in nature, did they find anything?
They found a really fascinating visual similarity. The overall shape of the disc, especially those curved lobes, it strongly resembles a type of microscopic algae called a diatom.
The diatom, like from pond water.
Yeah. Some species have incredibly intricate, symmetrical silica shells that look vaguely similar. It suggested maybe a natural inspiration. But diatoms are tiny, like maybe 1/10 of a millimeter across, basically invisible without a microscope. And given the lack of microscopes in 3000 BCE...
It seems pretty unlikely they were modeling microscopic algae for a tomb offering.
Highly improbable, yeah. Interesting coincidence, but probably not the answer.
Okay, so nature didn't give a clear answer.
Yeah.
On to the physical tests. The aerodynamics team, they had to treat the flying saucer component idea with some seriousness, right?
They did.
Did they notice anything just about the design itself that suggested it could interact with air, create lift, or motion?
Surprisingly, yes, to an extent. The aerodynamicists acknowledged that the basic shape, the profile of those lobes, could potentially generate lift. If, and this is a big if, the object were made of something much lighter and more durable, like modern carbon fiber or maybe thin wood back then.
Okay.
And they also noted, importantly, that ancient Egyptians did often make copies of everyday objects, things originally made of wood, basketry, perishable materials. They'd copy them in stone specifically for burial purposes for eternity.
So it could be a stone copy of something originally lighter and maybe functional.
It's a possibility they had to consider.
And what about the detail that really got the ancient astronaut theorists excited? The central part, suggesting it could spin.
Exactly. The replicas were mounted on a free spinning hub for the wind tunnel tests. That central hub detail on the original artifact is really suggestive of rotation, which is weird.
Why weird?
Because functional wheels for transport like carts or chariots were completely unknown in Egypt at this very early period. They didn't appear until much, much later, probably introduced by the Hyksos invaders centuries after Sabu lived.
So finding something that looks like it's designed to spin on an axle from 3000 BCE is anomalous in itself.
Very anomalous. It really fueled that idea that maybe this wasn't for rolling on the ground. Maybe it was part of some kind of drive mechanism, something rotating for propulsion or power. That was the key speculation.
All right, moment of truth then. They put the 3D printed replica in the wind tunnel, simulated airflow hitting it. What was the definitive result? Did it spin up like a turbine? Did it act like a propeller?
The result was completely unambiguous. And unfortunately for the alien tech theory, it confirms the physical limitations of the design.
Yeah.
The idea of this being any kind of drive mechanism, propeller, turbine, conclusively ruled out.
Why? What did they find?
They found that those delicate curved lobes or blades on both sides of the disc, they are perfectly symmetrical, identical in shape and curvature on the top and bottom surfaces.
And why is that perfect symmetry fatal for the propulsion idea?
Because for a propeller or turbine blade to actually work to push air backwards and create forward thrust, or to spin continuously from airflow, you need asymmetry. The blades need to be angled or have an airfoil shape like a wing designed to create differential pressure.
Right, like an airplane wing is curved on top, flatter on the bottom.
Exactly. With the Sabu Disc's design, Any tiny bit of lift or thrust generated on one side by the air flowing over it is immediately and perfectly canceled out by an equal and opposite drag or down force generated on the symmetrical opposing side.
So aerodynamically, it just does nothing in
Yep.
terms of propulsion.
It's essentially inert for propulsion. It can't generate net thrust or continuous rotation from airflow.
So what did it do in the wind tunnel when they tried to spin it or put it in the airflow?
Well, when they intentionally spun it and then placed it at an angle into the airflow, which is how you'd test a turbine effect, it didn't keep rotating like a fan or a windmill. Not at all.
What happened?
Instead, it acted more like a stabilizing rudder or a weather vane. It would spin maybe once or twice from the initial push, then it would immediately self-correct, self-calibrate, and align itself flat, edge-on, directly against the direction of the airflow. And then it would just stop spinning completely.
So it actively resisted continuous rotation and airflow.
Precisely. It proved definitively it is not a drive mechanism, not a functional turbine or propeller, whatever it was. It wasn't part of an engine.
Okay. Propulsion theory debunked by science. It was not a piece of a spaceship.
Yeah.
So, what are the non-alien, purely human alternative theories for this incredibly strange, beautiful object? Because it's too unique to just dismiss. Right.
Absolutely. Well, the engineering team explored other possibilities. The lighting department, for instance, offered a pretty strong alternative based on the shape.
Which was?
That it could have been a very elaborate oil lamp or perhaps a ritual flame bowl.
How would that work?
The central depression could hold oil and a wick, or maybe burning incense, and those thin, bent lashes or spokes around the edge, they might have served a practical purpose.
Like
maybe shielding the hands of the person carrying the burning lamp from the heat of the flame, or possibly acting as rests or guides for multiple wicks.
Okay, I can kind of visualize that and make some functional sense.
Right.
But we have to ask the crucial archaeological question here, don't we?
Which-
If this was an everyday object, or even a common type of ritual object like a lamp, why have we only found this one single, incredibly fragile example in thousands of years of Egyptian archaeology? Why aren't fragments of these turning up everywhere if they were common?
That is the main weakness of the lamp theory, absolutely. Its utter uniqueness is a problem for any common object explanation.
So any other theories from the engineers?
Well, the aerodynamicists, even after debunking the engine idea, offered one last intriguing possibility, although probably non-functional because it's made of heavy stone.
Yeah.
They noted that the basic cross-sectional shape of the disc's lobes, in principle, it works just like the cross-section of an airplane wing. It has an airfoil-like quality.
Meaning it could have been a model of something that could fly.
Exactly. Their conclusion was if the same shape were made from a much, much lighter material, maybe carved wood, stretched animal hide, maybe even some kind of early woven textile treated to be stiff, it could have potentially functioned as a throwing disc, like an ancient frisbee.
An ancient Egyptian frisbee made of stone.
Well, the stone version wouldn't fly, obviously, but it could be a heavy, non-functional ritual copy of a lighter object they knew could fly. Or maybe it was just a single, unique, ceremonial object whose true, practical purpose, maybe in a lighter material, is just completely lost to time.
So the final scientific finding on the Sabu Disc is pretty clear. The alien engine theory is out. Scientifically debunked in the wind tunnel.
Definitely out.
But its actual, true human purpose, still stubbornly locked away in the past, it remains an enigma. #tag outro.
So what we've really seen here today is this incredible tension, isn't it, between these overwhelming archaeological mysteries and the power, but also the limits of cutting-edge science trying to solve them.
Yeah, it's two sides of a coin.
On one hand, you've got the sheer logistical, physical scale of building the pyramids, an engineering feat that honestly remains physically unexplained by the current archaeological evidence we have, especially regarding how they solved the ramp and lifting problems.
That core how question is still open.
Wide open. But then on the other hand, you have the detailed breakdown of a specific alien artifact, the Sabu Disc. And there, modern science, wind tunnels, 3D printing has pretty successfully and definitively ruled out the main speculative theory, the propulsion idea.
Right. Science worked perfectly there to debunk one specific claim, but the mystery kind of endures, doesn't it? Because for every step forward science takes, it gives us some clarity, like debunking the Sabu Disc engine.
Yeah.
There's an equally baffling new discovery, like that massive 30-meter-long, completely unknown void found inside the Great Pyramid by the Muon project.
Exactly. You solve a question about an object's function, but then you find a massive new question about the structure itself. It's like peeling an onion.
These monuments, these artifacts,
Yeah.
they really stand today as testament not just to the incredible sophistication of ancient people, but also maybe to the limits of our own current knowledge.
Well put. Despite our fancy particle physics and advanced engineering simulations, those fundamental questions, how exactly were the pyramids built? What was the definitive purpose of unique objects like the Sabu Disc? They still remain genuine unsolved cases in world history.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of it all? I think we've seen pretty clearly that the quest for knowledge, it sometimes reveals more about what we don't know
Like that giant void.
than what we actually do know. Maybe the biggest danger in archaeology or any science isn't failing to find an answer, but maybe stopping the search too soon. If the true purpose of something like the Sabu Disc remains effectively one of the world's best-kept secrets after 5,000 years, what other secrets might be hiding right there in plain sight, waiting not necessarily for an alien explanation,
Touché.
but maybe just for the right scientific test, the right perspective to reveal their truly mundane or perhaps truly extraordinary nature?
It boiled down to keeping an open mind, but also demanding evidence.
I think the key takeaway is simple, really. Never underestimate the capability of the human mind, whether it's past or present. Keep questioning. Keep digging. There's always more to uncover.